Hey, it's Dan Zimmerman. Welcome to Illustrate to Educate. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support simple and objective videos on topics that matter. When gasoline prices rise, we definitely notice. The attention on these prices often causes people to put blame on politicians and the oil industry. In this video, we'll look at who's to blame for the high gasoline prices. First, let's look at what factors determine gasoline prices. Gasoline prices are determined largely by the laws of supply and demand, but let's look briefly at how it's broken down. Crude oil is the raw commodity used to make gasoline and is the most widely traded and used global commodity. On average, the price of crude oil accounts for 56% of the price of gasoline. Next, the oil must be refined, and the cost of refining this oil into gasoline and mixing in required additives accounts for 14% of the retail price. Once crude is refined into gasoline, the fuel has to be shipped to a storage tank and eventually distributed to local gas stations. On average, distribution and marketing costs account for 14% of the price of gasoline. Lastly, state and local taxes account for 16% of the retail price of gasoline. Federal taxes and fees are around 18.4 cents per gallon for gasoline, while state taxes could vary anywhere from 58.8 cents per gallon in California to a low of 8.95 cents per gallon in Alaska. Next, let's talk about the recent soaring of gas prices. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, gas prices in the US have soared to an average of $4.25 a gallon, with some states seeing prices over $6. This has caused many people to place blame over these higher prices to politicians, especially directed at President Joe Biden. However, the reason that gas has gotten more expensive over the past year doesn't actually have anything to do with President Biden, since it's actually been proven that presidents almost never have much direct control over gas prices. Since Biden has been in office, oil production has actually increased from about 11 million barrels per day to 11.5 million barrels through 2021. As Biden himself noted when announcing sanctions on Russian energy, domestic oil companies pumped more crude during the first year of his presidency than that of the previous presidency. So what has Biden actually done? Much to the frustration of climate activists, Biden has actually done very little to slow fossil fuel production on federal property. Biden did promise to halt new drilling on federal lands during his campaign for president, and in the first few months of his term, he temporarily paused the sale of new public oil leases. But a federal judge struck down this pause in June of 2021. And then in November of 2021, the Biden administration held the single largest ever auction of oil and gas drilling leases from the Gulf of Mexico, locking in a future guarantee of more than 1 billion new barrels of oil from that region. In January of 2022, a federal judge halted oil and gas leases in the Gulf of Mexico. However, even if President Biden had approved these earlier in his term, it wouldn't have made much difference in today's oil prices. It takes months and sometimes years to extract, refine, and put barrels on the market. Many blame President Joe Biden for signing an executive order on his first day of office to revoke the permit that was granted to TC Energy Corporation for the Keystone XL pipeline, a 1,179-mile pipeline that when completed would have added 510,000 barrels per day. However, only 8% of the entire line had been constructed. The completed pipe wouldn't have gone online until 2023 at the earliest, and consequently would not have had an effect on today's gasoline prices. Also note that the Biden administration allowed the controversial Line 3 pipeline in Minnesota to finish construction and go online in the fall, allowing for ongoing transports of Alberta crude. Some experts believe that the fossil fuel industry's desire to pad their profits is actually to blame for the high gasoline prices. As demand for oil has rebounded from its mid-2020 lows due to the pandemic, producers have been under pressure from shareholders to put profits over production increases and return cash to the shareholders rather than pump it back into drilling. As a result, companies have only expanded production slowly. Executives of oil producers have been cited for saying that their main focus is to return cash to the shareholders. Even outside the US, OPEC countries have held back oil production despite the demand from countries like the US, Japan, and India to pump more. So what's being done now? To offset the loss of Russian crude, Joe Biden announced at the end of March plans to tap the nation's Strategic Petroleum Reserve for the next 6 months at a rate of 1 million barrels per day. In addition, the Biden administration has been looking to secure new sources of oil and has been talking to countries such as Iran and Venezuela, about increasing production in return for reducing sanctions on those countries. But this move has triggered a bipartisan backlash from a foreign policy perspective. Republicans have introduced a bill to ban the U.S. from purchasing oil from those countries, and have argued that Biden should be focusing on increasing U.S. production instead. However, some believe that that is not the solution, and that the Biden administration has not been holding back U.S. production, but rather the oil companies themselves are the ones holding back production. Unless our government is willing to do business with some unsavory regimes, American drivers are probably going to keep feeling pain at the pump. Did you find this video to be helpful? Please like, comment, and share, and subscribe to Illustrate to Educate for more simple and objective videos on topics that matter. If you liked this video, be sure to check out some of my other videos to the right.